What's up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to the Tuesday night stream. And basically, I wanted to talk a little bit more about food choice, right? Eat this for that. So that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. I'm not going to be too long-winded tonight. I'm going to try to be as concise as possible, get through the things that I wanted to talk about tonight. You might want to take notes. You might want to take notes about what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Because I'm going to be naming things. I'm going to be listing things. Specifically food choices. What to eat raw, what to eat cooked. Things like that, right? Cooking is good, but, we don't want to do more cooking than we have to. Oh, word? Let me see if I press that, is that going to mess me up here? Oh, it won't. Back again, okay. So basically, I want to get through naming certain foods that should be in your diet and why you'd want to include them in your diet, right? Talking about that. Miss Donna Ann, what's going on? Big shout out to you tuning in from Raleigh, North Carolina. Is it Raleigh or Raleigh? How exactly is it pronounced for sure? I may be putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable here. In any case, food choice. Now, when you think about certain foods that you eat, right, the foods that you make a conscious decision to eat more of should depend on what improvements you're trying to make. What specific issues are you trying to fix, right? And the reason why that's important is because there are certain vitamins and minerals and amino acids that do very specific things, right? And so you have certain goals that you're trying to achieve. Maybe you want to get more energy, right? You've been feeling very low energy, poor sleep quality, right? Maybe things like perhaps constipation, maybe even diarrhea, right? Brain fog, whatever the case is. So you got to properly identify what your issue is. And so that's kind of really what I want to target and hit on today. So basically what I want to start with is people's biggest issues, right? And people's biggest issues tend to be nervous system issues, right? So I'll give you an example. Probably the most common nervous system issue that's on the table right now is going to be anxiety and depression, right? Those are two big ones. Those are two of the most common ones, right? Anxiety and depression. So anxiety and depression, largely, they happen in your gut and in your brain, right? But a lot of anxiety and depression comes from a lack of B vitamins. Now, you have, like, let's say, for example, thiamine, B1, ultimately the anti-stress molecule, right? Having more B1 in your diet will yield almost immediate results, right? When it comes to improving your brain chemistry, right? Improving your sleep quality. I'll give you an example. You can tell that you have a B1 deficiency if you're sleeping for extremely long periods of time and not waking up feeling rested, right? That's a big one. And so chances are, if that's one of your issues, it's more than likely a thiamine issue, right? Anxiety, depression are often related to folate, right? If you have a lack of folate, you may experience brain fog. You may experience anxiety, right? You may experience things like heart palpitations. Heart palpitations are actually directly correlated to nervous system function. And the vitamin or vitamins that you need in order to maintain healthy nerve functioning are going to be primarily B vitamins. And you need all of them because they work in correlation with each other, right? So these B vitamins don't really work separately. So I wouldn't really recommend supplementing with a specific B vitamin, right? You probably should have like a B complex, right? I'm not a huge supplement person, right? But if I were to suggest a supplement to someone in particular, chances are it would be B complex, right? And B complex would include B12, which is the one that I get asked about the most. The interesting thing is no one really asks me about the other, right? B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? People just ask me about B12 a lot. And so basically, taking a B complex, I'm more partial to a liquid form of B complex, right? And I'm going to answer some of your questions too to scroll up, but just opening with B vitamins. Now, the thing about B vitamins is you can easily end up with a B vitamin deficiency if you are pretty much eating just straight up cooked food, right? The more cooked food you eat, chances are you're going to be lacking B vitamins in your food. This is why I'm a big fan of a high raw vegan diet, is because when you're eating foods raw, chances are you're going to be getting more of those B vitamins intact. You're not going to be losing them in the cooking process. So when it comes to B vitamins, one thing is very important to understand is that one of the richest foods in B vitamin are going to be fruits, right? So raw fruits and vegetables. And you need your B vitamins to be paired with vitamin C, right? So when it comes to eating an abundance of grapes, apples, citrus fruits like oranges, tangerines, right? Your tangelos, blood oranges, etc. Pineapple, mango, papaya, cantaloupe, watermelon, all of these different types of things, cucumber. As you're eating a lot of these fruits, you're going to be accumulating B vitamins, right? And when you eat like this throughout the day and you eat like this on a daily basis, you will be getting an abundance of B vitamins, right? I got like a little hiccup there that I kind of cut off. So one thing that people tell me a lot is, hey, since I've been eating more fruit, I noticed that I've seen a significant improvement in my mental clarity, in my mood, in my sleep quality, right? And a big part of that is because of the raw fruits. And when you're having B vitamins, you also want to be well hydrated, and most fruits are very water rich, right? And so when you're having B vitamins in a water rich food, this increases the absorption of those B vitamins and the usage, right? And I think the final thing, at least I think this is the final thing that I'll say about B vitamins is your B vitamins don't just improve energy, right? And when they improve energy, the primary way that B vitamins improve energy is by increasing your body's ability to convert glucose from carbohydrates into usable energy, right? So when you consume carbohydrates, the B vitamins help to take that carbohydrate. Well, first of all, no. Carbohydrates break down into glucose, and that glucose is then converted into available energy with the assistance of B vitamins, right? So when people talk about fruits being high in sugar and carbs and all of that, the thing they leave out is the B vitamins, right? And the B vitamins increases the rate and the effectiveness of which your body converts that glucose into available energy, right? So that's a big part. So when people talk about, since I've been eating more fruit, I've been losing weight. A big part of that is because your insulin sensitivity is increased by the higher levels of B vitamins in your diet, right? Let me catch up with y'all in the comments here. My boo-boo happy healthing in the stream. Hello, boo-boo. Good to see you in here. Baby angel grapes. Do you eat salmon? I don't eat anything that comes from an animal. Let's see. Just became drawn to your live. Well, you know what? Welcome. Good to see you in here. How about just warming them up? I mean, yeah, sure, just warming foods up, right? Certain foods you should be eating warm, right? Or you'd rather eat warm. Certain foods don't taste that good cold, right? Like lasagna or lasagna, right? Look at that. There you go. Big shout out to you tuning in from Philly. Good to see you in here. Trying to find other than creamer in my coffee. Yeah, I don't really mess with coffee too much. I might talk about that a little bit if that interests y'all. Ooh, Cream, thank you for the 12 TikToks. Appreciate you. Shay, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Cream72, thank you for the 12 TikToks. Much appreciated. My first time catching your live. What's going on? Welcome. Came right out the gate hot with the info here, right? B vitamins. It's a big deal, right? And there's a lot of nutrients, too, that you lose in the cooking process. Another one would be magnesium. What's my take on dry fasting? Not a big fan of dry fasting. I don't really see any benefits of doing that. Dehydration, not a good idea. Not a big fan of it at all. Don Ann, thank you for the 2 TikToks. Much appreciated. Look at that. Thank you for sending gifts and showing love on the stream. Much appreciated to y'all. But yeah, dry fasting, not a big fan of that. I like it moist, right? I like a hydrating diet, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my take on that. VD Man, thank you for the roses. Appreciate you. I hope I'm saying it. VD Man D. Blood pressure. What does that say? Blood pressure shit around 130, 100? 130 over 100? Oh yeah, we gotta get that bottom number down a little bit, right? I mean, top number's not so bad, but bottom number is a little high, right? That implies excess pressure in the heart, right? So that's a coronary indicator there. My phosphorus is high. Any ideas? Chances are you got some kidney issues going on there, possibly liver issues as well. I would have to really get more information on your diet as a whole in order to give you like a real thorough answer on that, right? But when somebody has high phosphorus, chances are it's probably a kidney issue, right, going on there, some degree of kidney damage. Low white blood cell count. Oh, if you got a low white blood cell count, that's there's been a serious battle that's really worn out your immune system, right? So if you've got a low white blood cell count, are you experiencing like frequent infections? You get sick often? Low energy? Have you had a battle with cancer or some other major chronic illness? Did you lose a lot of blood at one point? There's a lot of reasons why that might be, right? So basically B vitamins, and this is probably the last thing I want to say about it. Your B vitamins in particular, help to build neurotransmitters, right? Hormones. They help to build your nerves in general. Right, so the actual infrastructure of your nervous system is maintained. The physical infrastructure of your nervous system, your motor neurons, your neurotransmitters, your nerves are built in part by B vitamins. Right. But anyways, enough with the B vitamins there. Moving on, right? So as far as getting an abundance of B vitamins, that is going to be your fruits, that is going to be your leafy greens. And when I say leafy greens, there are some of a few favorites of mine, and that's going to be spinach, kale, arugula, spring mix, watercress, mustard greens, and broccoli, to name a few. Now, moving on from that, And yes, they're also, as far as cooked foods with B vitamins are concerned, that's going to be whole grains. So that'll be things like wild rice, quinoa, kamut, my favorite, basmati rice, lentils, which are pretty much the Swiss Army knife of all foods. You can have a diet completely and totally made up of like lentils, and you'll get like a full nutrient profile from lentils alone. All right, so very big deal there. Watercress is amazing. True. Watercress is a big deal. I started trying to make more of a habit of getting that into the diet plans that I make as well. Yeah, for sure. Watercress and mustard greens. Big deal. Right? Very big deal. Moving on, right? Sleep quality. Matter of fact, on a scale of 1 to 5, I'd love to see in the chat, how would you rank your sleep quality? 1 being the poorest, 5 being very good, top-notch sleep quality. What would you rank your sleep at on a scale of 1 to 5? I'm curious to see what y'all put in the chat here. Oh, we got a lot of 1s popping up, so we're going to get into sleep quality. I don't think you can have lentils with lupus. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. You probably shouldn't eat a diet completely of just lentils, but yeah, you definitely can. I see a lot of 1s in the chat about that sleep quality thing. And you know what? I'm going to drop a video on TikTok about sleep quality. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but I see a lot of 1s, so we're getting a lot of poor sleep going on here. A lot of poor sleep. Gigi, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Let's see. I see some 3s. I see some 2s. 3 and 3/4. 3.75. GG. What happened? Your sleep quality took a hit this week? What's going on? Oh, I see a 4. All right, that's the first 4. I don't see no 5s. Oh, we see a 6. Let me tell you something. If your sleep quality is the 6, chances are you're in real good health. So I'm seeing a lot of poor sleep quality. So we're going to get into it here. Don Ann, a 2? Hold on, wait a minute. Don Ann, a 2? I know we got the allergy thing going on, so, you know, we're dealing with that. It's because I'm overweight at 308. They say kiwi increases melatonin. Yeah, kiwi is rich in tryptophan. Kiwi is also a good source of vitamin E. Kiwis are a big deal. Yeah, it took a hit due to snoring. Oh, I know it's not your snoring. I thought he was doing well. What's going on? He deviated from the diet? We could talk a little bit more about that at another time. Let's see. 2 hours last night. Yo, 2 hours of sleep. Don Ann, we gotta get on another call. We can't be having that. All right, so let's talk about sleep quality, because we're going to get into this. This is probably going to be the sleep quality stream now. Booking a call this week. There we go. Get you on the schedule. Now, sleep quality. B vitamins actually go a great ways towards improving your sleep quality. Now let's get into minerals. Minerals are the backbone of your DNA, right? Minerals are like the scaffolding in which your DNA is put together, right? But also, number 2, minerals are also responsible for alkalizing your body, right? Conducting electrical energy, right? As well as the synthesis of neurotransmitters, hormones. So, when it comes to sleep quality, the clinically proven minerals, okay, that are proven to improve sleep quality are going to be magnesium, zinc, calcium, and potassium. These 4 things, all right? Magnesium, zinc, calcium, and potassium. These four things collectively help to improve sleep quality. All right. There's another supplement that I'm a big fan of, and I don't really recommend supplements all too much unless we're trying to achieve a very specific thing, right? But there is a supplement called zinc magnesium aspartate, right, or ZMA for short. And this is basically a good supplement where it's combined. It's zinc and magnesium combined, right? And it's usually zinc, magnesium, and it's either B6 or 9, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those two. And essentially, I think it's B6, if I'm not mistaken. But these two minerals together are great sleep aids. Now, as far as whole foods, there are certain foods that really improve sleep quality. Now, here's the interesting thing, is the foods that usually have all four of those minerals paired with them, they're usually also good sources of tryptophan. And tryptophan is an amino acid that your body uses to synthesize serotonin. Serotonin is the basis for melatonin production in your brain. And melatonin is activated by darkness. And that's what allows you to go to sleep. So that's why you got to turn them lights out. So let's say, for example, when you dim the lights about 2 hours before bed or an hour and a half before bed, that's when that melatonin starts to release in your brain. So basically, from the tryptophan, your gut makes serotonin, and then your gut then sends a signal to your brain to produce more serotonin in your brain, and then convert that into melatonin, and then melatonin is then released as it gets dark. And that's when you slip into that sleep, right? So that is the order of operations that it happens in. So here's some examples. Now, I'm a big fan of the 5 food categories of a whole food plant-based diet, right? And this is a part of my vegan nutrition course that my members get access to. So you got fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Well, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, grains, and legumes, right? Now, in particular, when it comes to foods that have an abundance of magnesium, zinc, calcium, and potassium combined into one food, the primary food groups for that are going to be dark leafy greens, it's going to be nuts and seeds, and it's going to be legumes. Right? Those are the best sources. So I'm going to start with nuts and seeds. Now, the best nuts and seeds for this are going to be walnuts, cashews, peanuts, hemp seeds, chia seeds, and pumpkin seed kernels. All right? So just to repeat one more time, because it's a lot. Walnuts, cashews, peanuts, chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seed kernels. Right? So as far as nuts and seeds, any of those from what I just mentioned, that should be something that you're having in your diet on a daily basis. Now, keep in mind that these specific foods are these are good fat, polyunsaturated fat sources. So factor that into your macros, right? But they are substantially good sources of polyunsaturated fat as well as protein. All right? But they are sleep aids. Moving on to leafy greens, right? Pretty much all leafy greens, but in particular that watercress, just all sorts of spinach, really. So spinach, watercress, kale, as well as mustard greens are great sources for that potassium, calcium, zinc, and magnesium. All right. Very low calorie too. So they're very mineral rich, but very low in calories, right? So factor that into your macros. So pretty much those leafy greens are pretty much just all fiber, water, and vitamins and minerals. It's like a type of chewable multivitamin / mineral supplement, right? That's how you can think of leafy greens. And it's a good idea to pair those leafy greens with those nuts and seeds, right? And then, of course, if you want to lubricate them, add some taste and texture, add avocado into the mix, right? Because avocado is also a good source of magnesium, potassium, calcium, and zinc, right? As well as fiber, vitamin C, B vitamins, and things like that as well, right? So you can mix all of those things into a salad. You can have an avocado salad, right, with some cashews, some walnut chunks, pumpkin seed kernels, and a sprinkle of hemp seeds, right? And that's great in a meal. If you wanted to add to that meal, this is where we get onto legumes. Legumes that are a rich source in these nutrients, these minerals that I just explained. Number one on the list is going to be tofu, all right? Or soybeans, whether it be edamame, tofu, of any kind, right? Something made from soy. Now, soybeans get a bad rap, and they really shouldn't. And the reason for that is because it is a superfood, like no joke. If you actually look at the nutrient profile of tofu, it's absolutely phenomenal. We're talking, soy is a rich source of tryptophan. It is a sleep aid, okay? It's an antidepressant, okay? It boosts testosterone, especially in men, right? And the reason for that is because the high level of zinc and copper. And that same level of zinc and copper, as well as vitamin C, combine together to make new red blood cells, which is important for increasing blood oxygen. Yes, so soy milk is fine. Absolutely. That's the prime. Soy milk is actually the primary plant-based milk that I use. Okay. So I'm a big fan of that edamame, that tofu, right? And people say, oh, well, what about organic versus non-organic? Okay. In the grocery store, they only sell non-GMO organic tofu. Okay. The genetically modified non-organic tofu that stuff is fed to animals in animal agriculture, but the tofu for human consumption is organic non-GMO. All right, so in the grocery store, you'll see that USDA certified non-organic, not non-organic, non-GMO organic. All right, so it's organic and non-GMO in the grocery store. So, rich source of protein. So if you're trying to build muscle, a great source of protein is going to be tofu. Right? Soybeans are tremendously high in protein. Really good source of zinc, which is very important for muscle growth. Zinc. Zinc is very important for increasing testosterone. All right. Oh, by the way, a lot of people with poor sleep quality, you may have sleep apnea. B vitamins help with sleep apnea. All right, so taking a B complex is a great thing to do if you have sleep apnea. So it should be taking a B complex, preferably liquid B complex, and then in addition to that, eating an abundance of fruits and vegetables, right, to further get more vitamin C and B vitamins in your diet. So moving on from that, right, so I'm stressing the soybeans and the tofu a lot, right? The edamame a lot, because it's a big deal. Magnesium and calcium. I think out of all of the legumes, soybeans are the highest source of calcium. All right. So yeah, big deal. Very important deal. Oh yeah, by the way, folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. All right, let's get this thing pushed up while we're still on here, right? I've been getting a little carried away with dropping all types of information here. Ray, thank you for the rose. Appreciate you. Thank you for your knowledge. You're most certainly welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Do you go to the gym? I actually haven't been in a gym since March 2021, but I do train at home with resistance bands and body weight, or outside. Is it good for women too? Absolutely. Let's see. Bless, you only need to know that when you are getting blood or giving blood. Okay. Buford, what's going on, brother? Thank you for the 2 guacamoles. Much appreciated. Guac is a big deal, okay, folks? Big deal. Okay. So, yeah, basically, fellas, if you're watching, all right, zinc, you should be getting a minimum of 10 milligrams of zinc per day. If you eat like 8 ounces of tofu, that's pretty much like 7 milligrams or 8 milligrams of your zinc right there. So your average block of tofu is 16 ounces. So if you just get half the block, that's pretty much going to meet like 75 to 80% of your zinc for the day. All right. And zinc should be proportionate to the amount of copper in your diet, because if you are, so you know, people supplement with zinc, and you got to be careful with that, because if your zinc intake is too disproportionate to your copper intake, you can actually develop a copper deficiency, which can manifest certain side effects that resemble anemia. All right. So, you know, the supplementation thing, it is good when the dosage and whatnot is appropriate. All right. And it depends on how long you're supplementing for. If you're going to supplement with zinc, it's perfectly fine, but you don't need a really high dosage, right? A 30 milligram or 15 milligram one is more than enough. For women, you need like 7 milligrams per day. For men, you need like 10 milligrams per day, right? As far as the zinc is concerned. And I'm stressing that about zinc because zinc is a sleep aid. Of course, but especially in combination with magnesium. Now, as far as legumes, moving on to the second legume is going to be lentils, right? Red lentils, green lentils, brown lentils, all the different types of lentils, all right? Now, of course, you got to understand that you're going to lose a certain nutrient profile as you cook a food, right? So you don't want to cook a food for too long. Now, lentils cook pretty quickly, right? That's also why I'm a big fan of lentils. So lentils, you soak them for about an hour to 30 minutes, preferably 30 minutes before you cook them, and that speeds up the cooking process. If you soak them and then add some salt to the water you're soaking them in, that speeds up the process of them opening up a bit. And then you cook your lentils for a few minutes. You don't need to cook them till they're like completely mushy. You just want to soften them up a bit. So they should be soft but not mushy, right? And they should maintain their color, right? They shouldn't be like totally washed out. Red lentils, I'm a big fan of red lentils, and red lentils cook the quickest out of all the lentils that I've ever cooked, right? So red lentils, you cook them for a few minutes, about 5 minutes or so, and boom, they're done. And you don't need a whole lot of water either, right? So if you put your lentils in a pot, right, you should only really have like 1/4 of an inch of water over your red lentils or so, and it'll cook in a few minutes. And I cook them on a low heat. All right, so I don't do too much. I only cook things as much as I need to, and not more than that. I don't want mushy, foods. I don't want mushy, washed out green leafy vegetables. I don't want mushy, washed out lentils. I don't want that, right? So I want to resemble the texture and the shape and the firmness, right? Because I want to open up the cell wall enough for my gut to digest the food, but I don't want to obliterate the food in the cooking process, right? So you got to be mindful about that as well. So now we got lentils. And the third would be chickpeas or black beans, or even lima beans. I don't talk enough about lima beans. Lima beans are also a big deal, right? So we got lima beans, black beans, and chickpeas, or garbanzo beans. Now, right before bed, if you wanted a meal to be a sleep aid, depending on how you structure your diet plan, what you could do is you can have a meal where you have a mix of spinach and watercress as your leafy greens. And you could do sliced leeks or red onions. And then you can add walnut pieces, like crushed walnut. You can add cashews, pumpkin seed kernels, and sprinkle a few tablespoons of hemp seeds. You do some avocado slices in there, and then you can add some little cubes of tofu. So what I like to do is I like to get super firm tofu, okay, or extra firm tofu, and you chop it up into small cubes, really small cubes, and then you mix that in there, right? And then You can take your lentils, and I like to make a lentil sauce, or somebody just recently educated me on this. There is the Indian term for it is dal, I believe, right? And I call it red lentil sauce or lentil sauce, but they call it dal, right? And I pretty much, just soften up the lentils in the cooking process, and then I put them in a blender, and then I add my sauces and seasonings, and I blend it up, puree it, and then I add that on top, right? So you can do your tofu, you can do your nuts and seeds, and your leafy greens, right? You put all of that in your plate, bowl, whatever the case is, and then you take your lentil sauce, and you can just put that right on top, and then mix it in, and you get a beautiful, amazing, tasty meal. Now, third point I'm going to make on this is nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is amazing. All right, nutritional yeast is a phenomenal thing. I put this stuff in a lot of my food, and that is because nutritional yeast is a great source of iron, copper, potassium, protein. Right, you can get like 3 grams of protein per tablespoon of nutritional yeast. I like to use 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Now, in addition to that, I really want to focus on the B complex side of nutritional yeast, because nutritional yeast has B12, which is normally not found in foods, right? At least not to any significant degree. But you'll see like 300 or 500% of your B12 in there, right? Because it's a fortified food. So it's got a full B vitamin profile, all right, in there. And so what I like to do is I like to add that nutritional yeast into my lentil sauce. So I don't cook it because I don't want to lose the B vitamin profile in the cooking process. So I like to add the nutritional yeast in afterwards, right? And so I'll add those 2 tablespoons in, I'll blend it up, puree it up, and then I'll put it on top of my foods, and then mix all of that in. And you can do that and eat that a few hours before bed, right? A couple hours before bed, or just have it as your last meal for the day. And that meal acts as a sleep aid. Now, there's going to be a substantial amount of dietary fat in that meal, right? And it is going to be pretty high calorie if you're adding in tofu, and then you're adding lentils, and then you're adding cashews and all this type of stuff, right? That could be a pretty abundant meal. That could be like an 800 calorie meal. So you want to basically stick to and calculate your macros, right? Well, you don't necessarily have to, but if your goal is to like lose weight or something like that, you want to be cognizant of your food volume. So generally speaking, as far as your dietary fat is concerned, you want to be at around 1 gram of fat per kilogram of lean mass, right? So you get your overall body weight, and then you subtract your body fat percentage, and that will give you your lean mass. Now, if you're an American like I am, and you use the imperial system, in order to calculate for grams, what you do is you take your lean mass in pounds, and you divide it by 2.2. Okay? So you divide it by 2.2, and that will give you your lean mass in kilograms. And all you do is you just have 1 gram of dietary fat per kilogram of lean mass. The best dietary fat sources are polyunsaturated fat and monounsaturated fat. Okay. However, I understand that a lot of people like to cook with oil. That may be a bit problematic. Using plant-based oils, maybe like an olive oil or avocado oil or something like that, I'm fine with that. It's not so bad, right? I personally don't really add much oil to my foods. I don't really use oils in my food, but you can. But if you have high blood pressure, if you are diabetic, or anything like that, you may not want to cook with oil until you're in the clear, where your blood pressure is normal and your blood sugars are normal, right? Because cooking monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fat sources are more susceptible to breaking down under high temperatures, and that can cause that oil to be inflammatory, and we don't want to eat anything inflammatory before bed. All right? So that's pretty much the deal with that as far as a sleep aid, using your last meal to achieve optimal sleep. Let me catch up with y'all in the comments. Folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. GG, thank you for the 2 weights. Appreciate you. Sean, thank you for the 4 corns. We're getting it corny up in here on the stream tonight. Big ups to the corn. I don't eat much corn, but I like it. I like it when it's gifted in the stream, though. Don Ann, thank you for the cap. GG, thank you for the mini speakers. All right. Normally it's no cap, but if you're gonna send a cap on the stream, then it's a yes cap. Quick question. My doctor told me my testosterone levels were elevated. What can I eat to lower it? Let me see. If you are a woman with elevated testosterone, that is usually a sign that your estrogen production is low. Now, if your estrogen production is low as a woman, that implies an issue with the uterus or ovaries. All right. So that's a bit of a concern there. Now, did your doctor tell you that your testosterone is too high? Because you may have higher than normal estrogen as a woman, but that may not necessarily be a bad thing, especially if you're an athlete or you are a woman who is trying to build more lean muscle mass. However, if your testosterone is excessively elevated, right, then that would be more of an issue with the uterus and or the ovaries, right? So we'd have to take a larger look at your diet, right? Because lowering your testosterone may not really be the goal. What really may really want to be the goal is improving the health of your female reproductive system. Also, if you are too lean as a woman, let's say your body fat is too low as a woman, then you may have excessively high testosterone as a result of poor estrogen output and a lack of estradiol release from your fat cells. Fat cells release estradiol, which converts testosterone into estrogen, right? Or at least that's part of the chemical process that happens there, right? Now, if you as a woman, you're doing a bodybuilding competition, you got super shredded and lean, you're all vascular and dried out and whatnot, that can hurt your estrogen levels, right? So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind there. Right. So your question kind of warrants that whole thing is more of a complex issue that would probably have to be spoken about a little bit more in depth there. By the way, I understand I'm talking about a lot of complex things here and getting through a lot of let's say girthy information here. But if you need help with your health goals, book a call with me. You can go to my profile right here. You tap on my name there to go to my profile and hit the link in my bio. The link in my bio will contain a link to book a call, right? So you tap book a call with me and you can put yourself right on my schedule. All right. So I'm always open to do calls with people and provide solutions. And if you want a diet plan created, you want coaching support, things like that, or you want a training plan as well, I do that as well, right? So I got both feet in the game, right? Skin in the game, where I work with everybody on a personal basis. Oh, Donna, what you said? Hold on, let me see. Let me pull up the Discord here. Okay, yeah, I'm putting this one up. Yeah, I'm going to be putting the replay up in the Discord to rewatch it. Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to improve sleep quality and stuff too, because we may have to get a little bit more specific and probably add in some supplementation to really grab the situation by the horns. So yeah, definitely, folks. You can book a call with me if you need help with your wellness goals. You're trying to reverse some chronic illness or something like that. Let's do it. Yep, folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. I love dal, so good. I also use split peas. Yeah, they either make it out of lentils or split peas, right? It's like either or. Good night, Donna Ann. Thank you for tuning in. High androgens with the high testosterone issue. Oh, question, high androgens with the high testosterone issue? I'm dealing with higher testosterone too. It could also be a menopausal issue as well. Let's see. How much for a call? 50 bucks. 50 smackaroos. I always get runny nose and cough when eat cooked plant foods. Do you know why? A runny nose and coughs. What are you seasoning it with? Do you have any food allergies? What food specifically are you cooking when you experience this? So I got a lot of other questions when it comes to that. No, she just said elevated. I do work out often. Huh. Well, if you work out often, I know testosterone is increased by exercise, especially resistance training. And if you have a substantial amount of muscle mass on you, that will also drive up testosterone production, right? Now, as a woman, the bulk of your testosterone production, pretty much all of it, is going to be coming from your adrenal glands, right? But you know, if you've got like low progesterone, low estrogen, then that would be the other side of the ledger, right? So you can have elevated testosterone, but what does estrogen and progesterone look like, right? How does the uterus look, right? How's the fibroids look? You know, are you missing your cycle, right? Is your cycle consistent? Is it very shallow and short, right? So things like that. There's got to be like a lot of other questions there to really figure out just how much of an issue it is. Do you also supplement B12? Me particularly, not really. I mean, you can, right? You most certainly can. I definitely supplement it through nutritional yeast. I have a high muscle mass. I'm only 41. I don't think I'm going through menopause. Got you. What's your body fat percentage? I season with salt, pepper, and turmeric. Not allergic to anything. I cook chickpeas and cauliflower. Huh. Salt, pepper. What kind of pepper? Is it like really spicy food? I'd be interested to know if it's like really spicy or hot food, and how much of the seasoning you're using. Right? You may be using a lot of it. I don't know. You may be you may be hitting the seasonings real hard. What's good for constipation in a kid, and what's good for thyroid? Those are two separate questions. The thyroid question is going to take a bit longer to answer, so I'll get to constipation for a kid first. What's good for constipation in a kid? Short answer is going to be things like bananas, things like grapes, pears, papaya, right? Things of that nature, cantaloupe, honeydew, foods like that, right? Fruits, soft, mildly sweet fruits, right? And those are usually going to contain magnesium, like a magnesium citrate form, right? Which really helps you to go. So if you're lacking potassium and you're lacking magnesium in your diet, as well as vitamin C, that can cause constipation, right? Constipation is a result of your bowels being too dry, right? So even like just the increasing of fiber in and of itself is not going to do it, right? You actually got to get hydrated, right? So constipation is often a result of dehydration, right? So if you got a lot of fiber and fecal matter sitting in your lower gut and it's drying out, right, that can lead to that constipation. My body fat percentage is 24.1. Oh, well, your body fat percentage is actually like 4 points over where it should be, depending on what your age is. What's your LDL cholesterol? I don't know what my LDL cholesterol is currently, quite honestly. I don't know. My body fat... oh, yeah, I read that already. I don't season it with much, just a pinch. But do you think cooked food can cause immune response? I guess cooked food could cause an immune response, depending on what you're cooking and if you have any type of food sensitivity to it. Yeah, so I don't quite know, right? Certain spices could give you a little bit of a runny nose. I know cayenne pepper can do that. Jerk seasoning can do that. Pepper in general could do that, right? So yeah, I couldn't quite tell you that for sure. I would probably say to like get a food sensitivity test to make sure that you don't have any food sensitivities, and if you do have any food sensitivities, you'd want to know what those food sensitivities are. All right, so now let me get to the thyroid thing. MJ, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Let's talk about the thyroid function, because what is good for thyroid function? Those B vitamins that I talked about in the beginning of the stream, right? So, Lewis, what's going on? Good to see you in the stream. Welcome. So, first of all, when we talk about your thyroid, right? So you can have hypothyroid or hyperthyroid, right? Where your thyroid is overactive or underactive. Now, one of the things that really regulates your thyroid function is going to be B vitamins, right? That thyroid, that pyridoxine, that folate, all that, right? These B vitamins are going to regulate thyroid function as well as pituitary function. We often focus on thyroid function, but we also have to be mindful of the pituitary gland and be mindful of your liver function. If you have liver issues, right, or you have pituitary issues, that can negatively affect your thyroid function. A lot of the times people may have like hypo or hyperthyroid issues, and there's nothing wrong with their thyroid. It's some type of other issue, something either above or below, right? Pituitary or liver, okay. And even adrenal fatigue, right, can also be a part of it. So when you do everything necessary in order to improve your sleep quality, right? Improving your sleep quality is one of those things that's extremely important. So eating the foods that I just mentioned, right? Foods that are rich in magnesium, zinc, calcium, and potassium, right? Making sure that you're getting an abundance and a full array of those B vitamins, right? Those things help with your sleep quality as well as regulating your thyroid function, right? So that mineral balance is very important. One of the most common through lines that I find with people who have thyroid issues is they lack magnesium in their diet. Magnesium is a big one, right? So eating more magnesium-rich foods is definitely going to help with that. And you can supplement with magnesium as well, so long as you're eating more magnesium-rich foods. The supplementation in and of itself is not going to do it, right? If you just supplement with magnesium, because all of the nutrients work collectively, right? So you can supplement with magnesium, but if you're lacking zinc, it's not going to work. If you're lacking B vitamins, it's not going to work. If you're lacking potassium or you're dehydrated, it's not going to work, right? So supplementation should be in addition to dietary changes. So with that said, supplementing 500 to 750 milligrams, 750 is kind of a lot, 500 milligrams of, let's see, magnesium glycinate. That's a good one. Or magnesium taurate, or magnesium threonate, right? These are chelated forms of magnesium bound to an amino acid, right, to improve absorption, right? Now, magnesium is, let's say if you are experiencing brain fog, heart palpitations, anxiety, for example, you may want to supplement with magnesium taurate or magnesium threonate, right, for example. If you are experiencing really poor sleep quality, you may want to supplement with magnesium glycinate, right? Because glycine, which is the amino acid that's paired to magnesium glycinate, is an amino acid that is also very important for improving sleep quality. Now, the reason why I didn't highlight that earlier is because your body makes its own glycine, right, from the foods that you currently eat. So if you're eating more of those magnesium, calcium, zinc, potassium-rich foods, you by default, more than likely, are going to be producing enough glycine, right? But in addition to those dietary choices, if you supplement with, 500 or 450 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, that would definitely improve things, right? So those are my top picks: magnesium taurate, magnesium threonate, magnesium glycinate, right? Those are like my top three. And then, of course, getting your dietary fats in check, right? So basically, in your liver, if you have any type of fatty liver disease, right, you really got to pay attention towards your dietary fat intake. You shouldn't really be exceeding that 1 gram per kilogram of lean mass measure. You may exceed it by a couple grams or so, few grams, that's fine. So like if you have a lean mass of 62 kilograms or 67 kilograms, and you have 65 or 70 grams of fat or something like that per day, it's not really too much. But once you start getting like 100, 120 grams of fat in your diet and whatnot, that's when, especially if it's saturated fat, then we start getting a little problematic. Polyunsaturated fat sources, not that problematic, especially if those polyunsaturated fat choices are in fiber-rich foods. So example, you can eat like 2 cups of, let's say, peanuts or cashews or whatever the case is. It'll be a lot of dietary fat, but the fiber blocks a lot of the absorption of the fat. So the fiber can actually block like 25 to 30% of that dietary fat absorption, right? So it's a regulatory kind of thing. So all of the whole food polyunsaturated fat sources are actually very high in fiber. You start having problems when you're getting a lot of those polyunsaturated fat sources or monounsaturated fat sources from, let's say, plant-based oils or anything processed in general. And plant-based oils are a processed food. Oils, period, are processed, right? So you definitely want to keep that in mind. If you've got fatty liver issues, and definitely vitamin C, something that you want to have more of in your diet, you definitely want to make sure that you're getting enough copper, that you're getting enough zinc, that you're getting enough vitamin C combined together, because these things are used to make red blood cells. And when you have a healthy amount of red blood cells in your body, that is going to increase blood oxygen, which also expedites the fat metabolism, right? So that's how you reverse fatty liver, for example. All right. So I think, what's one more thing? So so thyroid, reducing oxidative stress, antioxidant-rich stuff, vitamin C, magnesium, zinc, copper, B vitamins, we cover that. A few things that I would add in addition: if you have hypothyroid issues, you may want to have ashwagandha tea on a consistent basis. So you may want to do ashwagandha powder, where you do a 1/4 teaspoon of ashwagandha and 8 ounces of hot water for tea. So that 1 gram is a 1/4 teaspoon, right? So you do a 1/4 teaspoon of ashwagandha powder, boom, right in the mug, fill it with some freshly boiled water, and that'll get you a gram of ashwagandha. You can do that right before bed, and that is also a sleep aid, right? So that ashwagandha powder. Now, if you have, the thing too is that some people are very sensitive to ashwagandha. Sometimes, it's not many people, but occasionally you will have a person who's an outlier who has a negative reaction to ashwagandha, right? So you may want to experiment with a small amount of it first to see if it's fine for you. So you don't want to buy it in bulk or something like that and then find out, oh, I can't take this, right? But yeah, that ashwagandha, big deal, okay? It's an adaptogen. So if you've got heart palpitations, anxiety, cortisol levels through the roof, ashwagandha would be a good thing to supplement with or to have that tea. Another alternative is ginger and turmeric. So you take 1 gram of ginger and 1 gram of turmeric, you put that 8 ounces of hot water in the mug and you drink that down before you go to bed. That is also extremely beneficial for your sleep quality and reversing fatty liver. The third option would be chai. Chai is very good for lowering blood pressure. You're right. So if you got high blood pressure, it's good for that. It's good for blood pressure, blood sugar, improving diabetes by improving insulin sensitivity. All right. And chai is basically a mixture of what? Cinnamon, black tea, coriander. Those are the ones that I remember off of my head. It's a blend. Chai is a blend of different herbs and spices. Right? So that's another really good one to have at night before bed. All right. Oh, hypothyroid. Well, there you go. So the suggestions that I just made here, those are some good ones. And that should go a long way towards helping you on your journey. I know I said a lot. It's a lot of information. I've been pouring it on kind of thick tonight. But you know, I try to make it worth your time to tune in here. You know what I mean? Folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. Sean, thank you for the fire. Appreciate you. So yeah, this is why I wanted to take that thyroid question last, because I'm like, that one is a bit complex because there's a lot of moving parts to it. A lot of people, they say, oh, I got thyroid issues. And it's like, well, no, you don't have a thyroid issue. You actually have a fatty liver issue, or you've got an adrenal fatigue issue, or you got a pituitary issue, or 2 or 3 of those issues. It could be a combination, right? And then it could be Hashimoto's. So Hashimoto's could cause hypothyroid. And Hashimoto's is a bit different because Hashimoto's is... it's more of an autoimmune disorder, right? And so your body can basically be attacking and damaging your thyroid. And then that gets us into a conversation about the inflammation escalation ladder, right? So when people say, oh, I need to lower inflammation, and it's like, well, you don't really, the goal shouldn't be to lower inflammation. The result of what you do should lower inflammation. What you want to do is you want to reduce oxidative stress, and when you reduce oxidative stress, that brings the inflammation down, right? And then when you bring down the inflammation and you keep that inflammation down because you reduce that oxidative stress and you keep the oxidative stress in check, that tends to kind of dormatize, right, to nullify the inflammatory response that is that autoimmune disruption, right? So basically, I always refer to it as a color-coded system. So on the inflammation escalation ladder, you've got green, yellow, orange, red. So now, ideally, you should be somewhere in between yellow and green, okay? Once you start getting in orange, you're going to be having problems. Once you're in red, you're going to really have some problems, even to the point where it might send you to the hospital. So what happens is people go from yellow, they get into orange, they play around, they don't take it seriously, they get into red, something really bad happens. They start taking action, they get into the orange, but if you don't sustain the action for very long, you go back into red. Ultimately, this is where consistency matters, where you have to bring yourself from the red into the orange, you bring yourself from the orange into the yellow, and you do everything you can to bring yourself into the green, and you maintain the green, right? So you want to make sure that sometimes you may go into yellow. What you don't want to do is escalate into orange, right? So you want to reel it in. So green, yellow. So you should spend most of your time in the green, right? And then once you do that, this is typically where, things like lupus, Hashimoto's, PCOS, colitis, Crohn's, all this type of stuff, diverticulitis, right? All these leaky gut issues, they kind of go away. They stop presenting symptoms. So it's like you didn't even have the issue in the first place, right? One thing that's very important to understand about chronic illness is in order to reverse chronic illness, you have to de-escalate on the inflammation escalation ladder. All right. So I covered a lot there, right? Does anybody have any questions about what I said? I know I said a lot, so you gotta give y'all a chance to catch up. Folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. I didn't eat anything today either. Today was a fasting day. So, according to my Fitbit, I walked 14,160 steps. My resting heart rate now is currently 54 beats per minute. And I've so far burned for the day 2,502 calories. And I don't feel tired. I feel pretty good. And that is in large part because of what I ate yesterday. And my fasting protocol, which is largely made up of the different herbal teas and things that I drink on a fasting day. Are you alternate day fasting? Yes, I am. I most certainly am. So some people will do a fast and feel miserable, right? And that is because if you're going to do a fast, you want to prep for it. You need to get your body ready for it before you do it. You can't just, you're in poor health. I'm just going to fast. No, not a good idea, okay? If you're low, poor sleep quality, hormones are a mess, and all that low energy, it would be a mistake to go from that and into a fast, because fasts are inherently inflammatory. Because fasts are stressful on your body. All right. So if you are chronically inflamed, one of the best things that you can do is really do everything you can to improve your diet first. All right. So that's pretty much the deal here. So fasting is more of an advanced thing. It's not like you can just subvert the dietary changes by just fasting. No, you got to go through your diet first. You got to be disciplined about what you eat first. Even when you apply the fasting, you still have to be disciplined about what you eat. GG. So good night, folks. Book a consultation with Coach. He is awesome. You won't regret it. True. Appreciate the shout out. GG. Remsen, what is your take on steel cut oats versus rolled oats? I'm more partial to rolled oats because I don't really cook oats. What I do is I like to make oat pudding, where I basically take rolled oats and I put it in a blender with all of my, other whatever, flax, chia seeds, hemp seeds, cinnamon, sea salt, things like that, plant-based milk, cacao, and I'll put that in the blender, a little coconut sugar or raw sugar, and put that in there and blend it up, and I'll puree it and make a pudding and then leave that in the fridge overnight. So I tend to do that, which is why I like rolled oats. Because if you're going to do steel-cut oats, well, you have to cook steel-cut oats. So if you make an oat pudding with steel-cut oats, just understand you got to cook the oats first. All right? Let's see. You're awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Fasting doesn't inherently cause inflammation necessarily, but it can. All right. It's a very circumstantial material condition kind of thing. So fasting can be very good for you and it can be very bad for you. Right? So for example, I'm fasting right now, but I'm not inflamed. But if I am lacking nutrients, if I'm lacking certain vitamins and minerals, um, if my body is doing a very poor job of converting stored fat or carbohydrates, whatever the case is, into available energy, that lack of energy can be inflammatory. Because when you have a lack of energy, that can cause vascular constriction, which raises your blood pressure. And when you have elevated blood pressure, that can also be inflammatory or drive up existing inflammation even more, right? So it's very circumstantial. It depends on the current set of conditions. It determines whether or not it is or isn't inflammatory. Awesome, Remsen. Could you do a video on how to make the rolled oat pudding? Yes, I'm gonna do a video on it. What is one of the simplest ways to boost metabolism naturally? Sleep better and eat more, as well as exercise. That is kind of like the top line things. Also, to have a more thermogenic diet, which means a diet that is more that is carbohydrate dominant. So a diet that is 50 to 65% carbohydrates. That'll speed up your metabolism as well. All right. So there's some natural ways to do it. Oh, also deep breathing exercises and meditation, 5 to 15 minutes a day. I could definitely eat more. Yeah, be careful, because one thing that a lot of people do with chronic illnesses is they undereat chronically. So, if your dietary needs come out to being like a 16 to 1800 calorie need, and you're eating like 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day, you are chronically undereating, like habitually. Right? Calorie deficits are useful for weight loss, but if that calorie deficit is too steep and it's maintained for too long, it stops working, right? There are diminishing returns. The longer you do it, the less effective it becomes. All right. So I got through a lot today on the stream. That was pretty much everything that I wanted to get through. So I'll just answer a few more questions and then jump. And then, of course, feel free to book a call with me. You know what I'm saying? We can meet this week or whenever you have time. And I will be uploading another replay to my YouTube channel shortly. Well, not shortly, probably like tomorrow or so. So I just finished editing here. Yeah. Oh, oops, wrong folder. All right, let's catch up with y'all questions here. Sean, thank you for the fire. Appreciate you coming through with the gifts on the stream tonight. I appreciate y'all for that. What's your take on eating for your blood type? You don't eat for your blood type. You eat for your species, and you eat for whatever goal you're trying to achieve. Right? Your diet should be dependent on your species, and what you're trying to achieve. Those are the primary things to go by, right? The main things that your blood type is relevant for are blood transfusions and organ donations or organ transplants, all right? Foods do not have blood types. Foods do not have corresponding blood types, right? So, which means that you're not going to eat a food, especially if it's a plant-based food, that's not compatible with your blood type, because plant-based foods don't have a blood type, which means that you won't have to worry about a mismatching of blood type because they don't have a blood type. All right. Oh, what folder did I put that in? Food timing for, okay, gotcha. When will you be on again? I will be back on here Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. How do you suggest to hit protein goals? I weigh 346 pounds. So Okay, so the golden rule when it comes to your macros, okay, carbs, fats, and proteins, you want to calculate your macros according to your lean mass, right? So the rule is you feed the body mass you want to keep and not the body mass you want to lose. So if you're 346 pounds, but you're like 40% body fat or 50% body fat, what you don't want to do is calculate your macros according to that. So check this out. Let's do some math here. So you said you're 346 pounds. Now, 346 pounds is 157 kilograms, okay? So you're 157 kilos. Now, if we were to calculate your macros according to your overall mass, we'd get some ridiculous numbers, right? So basically, you'd be getting your floor. If you wanted to do 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, you'd have to get a minimum of 157 grams of protein a day. All right, so 157 grams of protein actually comes out to a caloric value of 628 calories. Now, here's the crazy thing, right? Let's apply that to your carbohydrates. 157 times 4. So you'd be getting in 628 grams of carbohydrates to meet your carbohydrate needs according to that 157 kilos or 346 pounds. Here's what's going to blow your mind here. 628 grams of carbs comes out to be 2,512 calories. Okay, so that's a caloric value of 2,512. So now if you do 2,512 and then you add that 628 from the protein, that's going to bring you up to 3,140. We haven't even added your dietary fat yet. So that means that you at 346 pounds, you'd have to be eating nearly 4,000 calories every single day. Logistically, that is going to be deeply problematic for you. Because now let's say your dietary fat, 157 times 9. So if you were to get 157 grams of fat, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So that would be 1413. All right. So if we took that like 3,100 something and added that 1,400 to it, pretty much you're going to be eating, well over 4,000 calories a day. Which means that if you were to eat 4 meals a day, all 4 of those meals would have to be over 1,000 calories. All right. So, let's say if you were to do 4,200 calories a day, and you were to divide that by 4 meals, each meal would have to be like 1,050 calories for each meal. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, that don't make no sense. This is why you have to do the math and know how to calculate your macros. You have to feed the body mass you want to keep and not the body mass you want to lose. So what you would have to do out of that 346 pounds, let's say, and matter of fact, if you're still tuning in, and I imagine you are, what is your height? Oh, 34% body fat? What's your height? Because that number may actually not be correct. I just read plants are incomplete proteins. I'll dive into that. I'll explain why that doesn't make sense. The incomplete protein thing. It's a meme, right? So 346, 34%. All right, that seems plausible, right? If you're 6'3", so let's say 346 pounds. And what we're going to do is we're going to minus that. We're going to subtract that 34%. So that gives us a lean mass of 228, right? That's a big boy. So now 228, and we divide that by 2.2 to get our weight in kilograms, and that brings you to 103 kilograms of lean mass. So basically, your protein floor, if you're trying to like gain muscle mass and create a body transformation, your floor is, it's 103.6. So we round up to the nearest 10, we get 104. So you should be getting 104 grams of protein a day at minimum. All right. Now the upper end of that, let's see, 104 times 1.6. And that will be 166 grams of protein a day. So you should be getting in between 104 and the max of what you need is 166 grams of protein a day. All right. But that 106 is like if you're an elite level athlete. 34% body fat, your primary goal. 38%. Oh, sorry, I miscalculated that. All right. I went calculated for 34%. I don't know why I did that. So basically, your primary goal, if you're 30+% as a man, just understand that as a man, a healthy body fat percentage is, an ideal body fat percentage is 10%. So what you really got to do is focus primarily on dropping that body fat. That is the primary goal. The reason why this is extremely important, especially if you're over the age of 30, is because body fat will cause you to hemorrhage testosterone, meaning you will be losing a tremendous amount of testosterone because it will be converted into estrogen through aromatization. The more body fat you have, the more estradiol your body produces, right? So this will cause your estrogen to be excessively high in comparison to testosterone. So as you drop body fat, that will cause your testosterone to increase to the point where if you drop like 60 pounds of body fat, your testosterone can go up by like, several hundred points, right? Fellas, safeguard your testosterone. All right? So safeguard your testosterone. Sleep quality, resistance training to build muscle, blood flow, and of course gut health. Everything should revolve around that. All right? Sean, thank you for the 7 weights. Appreciate you. Coming through with more love on the stream. Look at y'all. Y'all been so generous to me on the stream. Y'all treat me so well. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about the incomplete protein thing. Now, when people say, it's an incomplete protein. Well, I mean, now let's say if 100% of my calories came from rice, let's say basmati rice. All I ate for the whole day was basmati rice. Would I be getting, would that be a problem as far as the completion of having a full amino acid profile? Yes. When they say incomplete protein, what they really mean is you're not getting a full amino acid profile, specifically essential amino acid profile. All right? And when they're talking about proteins, what they're talking about are the proteins that are created by branched chain amino acids. So that's going to be valine, leucine, and isoleucine, right? Those 3 amino acids, the branched chain amino acids that make up, for example, muscle proteins. Now, of course, your body produces a whole ton of other different types of proteins that these people never want to talk about because people tend to have a very crude understanding of nutrition. Now, it doesn't matter if a food does not have a full amino acid profile because you should be diversifying your food choices anyway. So if you're doing like what I tell you to do, which is have a full diverse food profile, meaning you're eating from all 5 food categories, which is going to be fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, grains, and legumes. If you eat from those 5 food categories, you will guarantee yourself a full amino acid profile, which will result in complete proteins. Now, all of the protein you eat, whether you get it from animals or plants, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a complete protein because your body's going to break down whatever protein you consume anyway into amino acids. And then your body is going to take those amino acids and is then going to use them to create other proteins that are compatible to your DNA. So your body is going to take amino acids, it's going to take vitamins, it's going to take minerals, and it is going to synthesize new proteins in the form of your DNA, your cellular structure. So, if you eat you eat the muscle tissue off of a cow's ass, that buttocks protein from a cow is not going to just be grafted onto a muscle on your body. That is not how that works, right? So it is going to be broken down into amino acids and then be used to create collagen and all types of other different proteins, right? Liver enzymes and all types of stuff. And then those proteins are going to be used to create hormones and all other different types of cells, blood cells, muscle tissue, bone, hair, fingernails, ligaments, tendons, etc. Right? So the whole incomplete protein thing is like a kind of a silly kind of bodybuilder meme, right? About like plant-based diets. No one who is actually an educated nutritionist is going to be doing, or at least they shouldn't be doing, the whole incomplete protein thing. Because anybody who understands the raw basis of protein understands that is completely irrelevant because of the totality of your diet, right? Protein digestion and synthesis happens over a period of 36 to 72 hours, which means that your body accumulates proteins and amino acids over a period of several days. This is the reason why I'm able to fast for a full 36 hours and not really lose any muscle mass. In a lot of instances, actually develop new cells and have more growth hormone production, right? So the incomplete protein thing, it's a crude kind of way of understanding how that stuff even works, right? So, LOL, sorry, well stated. No, I mean, look, it's not a dumb question, right? I mean, definitely when you hear about certain things like, oh, I heard this about tofu or destroys testosterone or, things like that. When people say things like this, not only have they not read any scientific data about tofu, that's number one, or soy in general, but they also don't understand the role that things like phytoestrogen, zinc, magnesium, things like that play in diet. These people are completely uneducated about nutrition, or they are lying. So I give you an example. Soybeans or tofu, very rich sources in magnesium, zinc, and copper. Magnesium, zinc, and copper work together to actually increase the testosterone, especially in men with low testosterone, right? Literally, if you supplement with zinc and magnesium together, matter of fact, zinc on its own can boost testosterone. When you compare that with magnesium, it has a compounding effect. When you compare that with vitamin C and copper, that also causes a better blood profile, where your body actually creates more new red blood cells, which increases oxygen, blood oxygen, and increasing blood oxygen helps to metabolize fat, which means it makes it easier for you to get leaner and absorb more oxygen, which also reduces oxidative stress. And these things combined raise testosterone. Because when you reduce oxidative stress, that in and of itself will raise your testosterone to healthy levels, especially if you're a man, right? Phytoestrogens actually block mammalian estrogens from binding to your cells. To your cell receptors. So phytoestrogens mimic mammalian estrogens. Mammalian estrogens are actually the type of estrogen that can disproportionately negatively affect testosterone. One thing you have to understand about hormones is one hormone is always directly correlated to another hormone, right? So for example, you have testosterone. As you elevate testosterone, that will drive down estrogen. As you lower testosterone, that will drive up estrogen. It's a seesaw, right? You don't keep one the same and raise the other, and it just works like that. They rise and fall in correlation with each other. Another example of that would be cortisol and adrenaline, right? As cortisol raises, that can suppress adrenaline, right? As you raise cortisol, this can cause estrogen to increase in order to drive down cortisol. So these things all move in correlation with each other, right? So if you have these phytoestrogens and they serve as a protection from excess mammalian accumulation, excess mammalian estrogen accumulation in your body, right? So this actually helps to protect. And in fact, all the scientific data that we have available to us about soy shows that soy is tremendously beneficial for protecting your hormonal health, both for women and men, because it's regulatory. It has also been shown that soybeans, edamame, or tofu actually have extremely positive effects on protecting from things like breast cancer or prostate cancer, for example, right? So there's a lot of scientific data revolved around that. And if you really want to see that, you can actually Google, and I'm going to Google it in a second just so I can tell you exactly what I did. So if you go to soy, you know what's funny is that if I type in soy in test, it automatically autofills to soy testosterone myth, right? So let's go to soy testosterone study. So when I type in soy testosterone study, those three words into Google, the first thing that pops up, National Institute of Health.gov. Neither soy nor isoflavone intake affects male reproductive health. Okay. Clinical studies show no effect of soy protein. So that's the second study that pops up here. So if you read the bottom thing, it says the results of the meta-analysis suggest that neither soy foods nor isoflavone supplements affect measurements of bioavailability of T concentrations. These are the first things that pop up, right? So the scientific data does not suggest at all that soy is negatively affects testosterone. So anyone who says that is either deliberately lying or they've just never really looked into it and they're repeating something that somebody else said, right? It's those two things. So when you hear somebody say that, either they don't know what they're talking about, they're not educated on the topic, or they're deliberately misleading you, right? I put a lot of emphasis on the word lying, right? Because it's exactly what it is. Let's not mince words. Let's see. Great job. You've gone live for 90 minutes. Why is TikTok telling me that? All right. In other words, TikTok is like, yo, you killing it. You're getting carried away here. All right, let's see. Remsen, don't legumes, tree nuts, and seeds have the amino acids in them that our bodies need? Absolutely. While the body fat thing is no joke. True. What are your thoughts on Liver King saying avoid veggies due to oxalates and phytic acid? Liver King is a steroid abusing grifter, right? Who basically had his whole brand demolished when it came out that he was lying about what he eats and the fact that he was natty, as in not taking testosterone. So that came out that it was a bull-faced lie. He's not a nutritionist. He does not have education in nutrition. He is not natural, and he does not eat the things that he tells his audience to eat. So he came out and was exposed as a complete 100% liar. I'll talk about the oxalate thing in a second, and the phytic acid thing in a second. Now, you'll hear this thing. They'll say, oh, plant defense chemicals, oxalates, right? You gotta avoid eating vegetables because of the oxalates. There is no scientific evidence whatsoever that shows that this oxalate thing is even a problem for people's human health. And if they did have any evidence to demonstrate that, they would show it. I would be able to find that on the National Institute of Health.gov. I would be able to see PubMed studies that show that. There is no scientific evidence whatsoever that shows that oxalates is actually a problem in people's diets. Also, they say oxalates, but what they don't say is what oxalates are they talking about? Now, I've had people jump in my comment sections under random videos and talk about the oxalate thing and the plant defense chemicals. and I ask a trick question, and the question is, which oxalates are you talking about? Now, if they don't know how to respond to that question, I know for a fact they don't know what they're talking about, because there's two primary types of oxalates. You have soluble and insoluble, which means oxalates that dissolve in water and the oxalates that don't. The non-soluble oxalates are the ones that bind to calcium. The only way that's going to be a problem and actually develop something like gallstones or kidney stones is if you have an excessive amount of calcium in your diet. Now, if you're on a whole food plant-based diet, then more than likely you won't have an excess level of calcium, because all of the most calcium-rich plant-based foods have an abundance of fiber, and the fiber is regulating the calcium, right? In the same way it regulates iron absorption. So the fiber makes sure that you absorb enough but not too much, right? Also, the foods with the highest oxalates also have the highest levels of iron and the highest levels of calcium. It's protective, right? So it's not a plant chemical that is created because it wants to keep it from being eaten, right? But it's actually a regulatory and protective thing that's found in plant-based foods. Now, another thing that I want to address is when they say the plant defense chemicals. So plants, they can't like get up and run away from you, right? So when you're eating, some vegetable, it's not going to get up off the plate and run from you. So it has to produce plant defense chemicals. Now, here's the thing. If these plant defense chemicals are so dangerous to human health, then why is it that it is universally known that eating more leafy green vegetables reduces all-cause mortality? This is straight across the board in all currently available epidemiological data that we have, right? So there's no evidence for it whatsoever. So, I mean, it shows eat more fruits and vegetables reduces coronary heart disease, reduces vascular disease, reduces diabetes, insulin resistance, reduces autoimmune disorders, diseases, right? And is protective for gut health, right? Helps with leaky gut, all of this type of stuff, right? So just straight up positive benefits straight across the board in all the epidemiological data that we currently have, right? So there's just no evidence for it whatsoever. And the thing, too, you got to think about is, do these plant defense chemicals actually keep plants from being eaten? Because if I'm going to produce something to defend me, why would I be biologically designed to produce this protective thing to keep me from being eaten, but it never keeps me from being eaten? If you ask them, oxalates are harmful for human health, it's a plant defense chemical. Oh, well, how long does it take to harm my health? Oh, well, you see, it's very insidious. I mean, it can accumulate in your body, and then, it negatively affects your health in like 5 or 15 years. That doesn't seem very protective, right? If I set up a defense mechanism and it doesn't protect me, but it kind of harms the person who killed me 5 or 15 years later, that's not very helpful when it comes to protecting me, right? So even the logic of it on its face doesn't pass the sniff test in any way, shape, or form. So it doesn't. So when they say plants, they don't want to be eaten. I didn't know plants want anything. They don't have a brain or a nervous system. It's not like they have a will to live or do a specific thing. They're not sentient. Right? So that's another thing. They're not sentient, and these plant defense chemicals, they don't actually protect them. So for anything that produces protective chemicals that poison you, they kill you in a matter of minutes or an hour tops. Anything that's venomous, let's say like a puffer fish or something like that, right? You know not to eat them because you'll die rapidly, right? But these plants, they produce these harmful chemicals, but they take a decade, not to kill you, but just to kind of harm you, supposedly. Oh, they can make arthritis worse. Oh, really? So arthritis, and they make that claim. There's no scientific evidence for that whatsoever. They say, oh, well, the oxalates, they build up in your joint tissue. Oh, do they? You have any evidence for that? No. Oh, okay. Oh, they build up in your kidneys. Do they? No. So these are people where they're making it up. They're getting in front of the camera and they're lying to as many people as they possibly can. I guess to drive meat sales or whatever, I don't know. But anyways, I'll kind of get off the soapbox about that. As you can see, this is a thing I'm very passionate about, because when people lie and make up nutritional claims that are harmful, I have a big problem with it. Because as a person who is deeply invested in reversing chronic illness, it is very dangerous to have people out there telling people to avoid eating the things that are the most beneficial, and then telling people to eat the things that are causing all of the diseases. Nobody's improving their health by eating bacon. Nobody's improving their health by eating more butter. Nobody's improving their health through any of these things. You're just making it up, right? So that stuff is deeply harmful to the public, right? So, I get a little activated about that sort of thing. Renaissance, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. Good to see you in there. Thanks, Remsen, for all your help and information twice each week. See you on Thursday. Have a good night. Take care. Junk for junkies. Are you worried about lectins in nightshades? No. You should be worried about lectins, for example, if you're eating like dried beans and raw potatoes. That's when it's probably you're gonna have some problems, right? So make sure that if you're gonna eat potatoes or you're gonna eat legumes or anything like that, make sure you're cooking them first. Rice, make sure you're not eating raw rice, right? Things like that. But as long as you're cooking these foods that are supposed to be cooked, you're not gonna have a problem with lectins or nightshades. The only way you should be cautious of nightshades is if you have a sensitivity, like a food allergy or sensitivity to nightshades. And you can take a food allergy test to determine if you do. So it's going on 10 o'clock, folks. I don't want to run it too long. If I missed any of your questions, definitely book a call with me, right? You can go to the link in my bio. So you go right up here. You tap my name right up here. You go to the link in my bio and you book a call with me. We'll have a full 60 minutes to pretty much get all your questions answered. I went through a lot of information here on the stream. I tend to do that also on the calls. So definitely have your questions ready. Be ready to take notes if you're going to book a call, because we're going to go through a lot of stuff. And, if you want to move forward, you want to get a diet plan, training plan, you want coaching support, things like that, I do that as well. So I do this full time, trying to help as many people as possible to reverse chronic illnesses. That's the deal on my end. So having said that, I'll be back on here Thursday. And thanks for tuning in.